I've been to Iceland once before in my life and it was incredible. I spent just 5 days there back in 2016 with my partner Michelle. We explored Reykjavik and then rented a car and drove the southern portion of the ring road as far as Vik, exploring all the usual hotspots along the way. I'd known that hiking across Iceland was a thing since I saw that Andrew Skirker did it back in 2008, and the 5 days I spent there just reinforced that I would be going back. 2020 was a difficult year for most people and I had my fair share of struggles. So in early 2021, when one of my best friends, Cheesebeard, suggested we go hike across the country, starting in the northwest and finishing in the southeast, I was immediately in and started preparing. So in a few days' time, me and him are heading off. I'm going to be filming the entire hike in a way I've never really done before and sharing those videos when I come back. Go follow me on Instagram to follow along on the hike. I'll be posting as regularly as I can, and subscribe to me here on YouTube to catch those videos when I return. So now onto the gear. I'm striving to keep this video at a reasonable length whilst also providing enough information. If you do have any questions, then drop them in the comments below. I'm listing everything I'm taking in the description as well as affiliate links, so if you do purchase something through one of those links, you really help support this channel. First up, my sleeping gear. I'll be using the Thermarest Neo Air X-Lite. No real surprises there. Super comfortable, super warm, super lightweight. I am carrying the Xbed UL Air Pillow. This thing to me is totally worth its weight. It helps me to get a solid night's sleep, which is super important out on the trail. We're going to be dealing with decently cold temperatures in Iceland, with daytime temperatures hovering around 10 degrees Celsius, that's 50 Fahrenheit, and it will get a good bit colder in the evenings. So I'm carrying the Z-Packs 10 degree Fahrenheit classic sleeping bag. It's somewhat of a quilt sleeping bag hybrid. It has a 3/4 length zipper. I've used it on a bunch of overnight trips and I've been super happy with it, so that's what I'm bringing along on this trip. My shelter for the trip is the Gossamer Gear DCF The One. I've used the Seal Nylon version of the One on many of my longer trips. We're going to be dealing with lots of wind and lots of rain, and I have no doubt that the One is going to hold up great in those conditions. I'm going to be carrying 6 stakes plus 1 spare in this stuff sack. I'm primarily using the MSR wire stakes just for that extra holding power. I think it's worth the extra weight. And I'll also be carrying the Gossamer Gear The One pole set. We've come up with a pretty ingenious way to carry a tripod out on the trail, so I'll get to that in a second. The pack I'll be using in Iceland is the Gossamer Gear Gorilla 50 litre. This is a pack I have a lot of experience with it. It does have a frame and a solid hip belt. I'm going to be carrying a decent amount of weight on this trip, so I'm happy to have those features. I'll be waterproofing my pack using a trash compactor bag. It's something I've used for years and it's never failed me. The pods from Hyperlight Mountain Gear is one of my favourite small accessories. I use it as my ditty bag. I just find it incredibly convenient to hold all my small stuff safely inside my pack, and then when I get to camp I can quickly access everything I need right there. On the left shoulder strap on my backpack, I'll be using the Gossamer Gear feed bag to hold snacks throughout the day, as well as possibly my phone and any other small accessories I just want quick access to. I'll be using the Z-Packs food bag to hold all of my food. I used one of these on the Appalachian Trail back in 2015. It has a really wide opening, enabling you to see all of your food and grab what you need quickly. New for me on this trip is the Z-Packs multi-pack. It's how I'm going to be carrying my camera up on my chest. Previously, I'd used the keyhole camera holder, which is something I highly recommend, but for this trip I wanted to have something where my camera is a little bit more protected from the elements, and so I'm testing out the multi-pack. So far so good. It's just a quick, convenient way to have good access to my camera. I'm going to be cold soaking for the entire trip, so I'm using the Vargo Bot. It's a really great option because it enables me to cold soak my food in the side pocket of my backpack as I'm hiking along, but we are going to have the opportunity to boil water in some of the kind of wilderness cabins that they have in Iceland. I'll be using this titanium long-handled spoon. It enables me to get down into the bottom of my pot and get all the little last scraps of food out. I like to carry a cut-up piece of mini pack towel. It barely weighs anything. It helps me clean my pot and soak up any ramen juice that does get in my beard. Eleanor Osborne complained in one of her videos that it's impossible to find smart water bottles or compatible bottles for the Sawyer filter in New Zealand, and I feel her pain. It's the same here in Finland, but fortunately I have a couple left over from my Sierra trip in 2019, And about that trip, my feature-length documentary from that hike is still in post-production, so I'll give you more information on it when I can. I'll be carrying just one 500ml smart water bottle, as well as this bottle that I'll use for coffee. There might be a couple of dry stretches, and I do like to fill up this platypus water bag when I get into camp. I'll be carrying the Sawyer Squeeze water filter. It's been around for a while, but in my opinion, it's still the best water filter on the market. So then onto my worn clothing first. I'll be hiking in the Ultra Lone Peak 3.0s. I've been using low peaks for the majority of my long trips. They are the shoes I trust, and I have a pair of the 3.0s laying around, so it's what I'm going to be using. I'll be hiking in the Beliga Blister Resist socks. They're a sock I trust and I highly recommend them. I'll be hiking in the Altitude Rush cap, as long as it's not too crazy windy. This is a baseball cap from a small German company. I've used it a bunch. I really like it. This shirt is new to me. It's made by a British brand called Craghoppers. I really enjoy it. It's treated with kind of anti-bug technology, and I think it's pretty dope. I'll be wearing Under Armour boxers. They're the only boxer shorts I really trust. We'll be dealing with pretty cold, wet, windy conditions in Iceland, so I'm actually going to be hiking in pants for the first time in a long time. I've decided to go with the Patagonia Terrebone joggers. They're basically just like running shorts, but pants. Sun God from the UK makes some amazing sunglasses, and I'll be hiking in these. These are called the Velens. We'll be hiking in cloudy, overcast conditions for the majority of the time, and these lenses will work really well in those conditions. And when the wind is really blowing, I'll be wearing the Enlightened Equipment Torrid wind shirt. For this trip, I got myself a fresh new pair of trekking poles from Hiker Hunger. So then onto my packed clothing. This is clothing that's going to spend the majority of its time inside my backpack, and I'll just pull it out when necessary. My rain jacket and pants for the trip is the Z-Pax Vertis. It's something I've used on a bunch of other trips. It's super breathable, super lightweight, and I trust it. I'll also be using the Z-Pax Vertis rain mitts for when it is really raining and really cold, and they're something that I'll throw on over the top of these fleece gloves. I expect to be wearing these fleece gloves for the majority of the time. They're a little bit thicker and heavier than like a basic liner glove, but I do suffer from cold hands, so for me it's worth the extra weight. My long underwear bottoms will be this lightweight pair from Smartwool. They're full of holes, but they're still going strong. I will be carrying a second pair of Under Armour boxers. It's nice to have a change of boxers when that first pair gets kind of gross. My second pair of socks are made by Darn Tough. They're a longer model and I can sleep in those. I'm also going to be carrying a pair of Sealskin's waterproof warm weather ankle socks. This is only going to be for the water crossings in Iceland. We are going to be crossing a bunch of very cold, very sketchy rivers in Iceland. So my method for that will be to remove the inner soles from my shoes, put the sealskins on, put my shoes back on, and then hike across like that. I will hike like that for a little while until the shoes somewhat start to dry out, and then I can take the sealskins off, put my regular socks back on, and continue hiking. I don't really want to be dealing with like freezing cold feet day after day after day. My warm hat for the evenings is this Altitude beanie. It's a merino wool blend. It's super cozy. I've used it on a bunch of my other trips and I love it. I'll also be carrying this Altitude merino neck gaiter. It's 100% merino wool, super versatile and worth bringing along. My puffy jacket for this trip is the Enlightened Equipment Torrid pullover, super lightweight and super warm. Onto the electronics and small stuff. I'll be carrying my iPhone XS inside this case. My external battery is the Nightcore NB10000. This is the lightest 10,000 milliamp battery on the market, and it has pass-through charging, so I can be charging it whilst it is simultaneously charging one of my other devices, which is an awesome feature. I'm carrying way too much electronics and camera gear on this trip, so I have this giant mess of cables. The sun will barely be setting at all whilst we're in Iceland, but of course I do want to bring a headlamp along, so I'm using this BioLite 200. As I said, I'm carrying way too much electronics, so I'm bringing this Anker multi-port USB wall charger. It enables me to charge a bunch of devices simultaneously. New to me this trip is the Garmin InReach Mini. I've tested it out a bunch this spring and I really like it. I was previously using a Spot device, but I don't think I'll ever move back to something like that. And then we get to the camera gear, and unless you're someone like me that creates content and enjoys expressing themselves through video and photography, I'd honestly recommend most people just use the camera on their smartphone. But with that being said, I am carrying 6 pounds of camera gear on this trip. Yes, you heard it right, 6 pounds. My base weight without the camera gear is around 12 pounds, so it's not terrible, but then that goes up to 18 pounds with all that camera gear. But this is one of the ways I earn my living, and I just thoroughly enjoy having camera gear out with me on a hike like this, so for me, it's worth it. My new camera for this trip is the Sony a7S III. On the camera, I'll be using the Sony 20mm f1.8 lens, and on top of the camera will be the Rode Video Mic Mini. I'll have one battery inside the camera, and I'll be carrying 2 extras. I'll be carrying an ND filter and polarizer inside this case. I'll be carrying this Manfrotto Pixie tripod. I really like this little tripod. It enables me to get stable shots quickly on the go, as well as kind of use like a selfie stick to get those kind of talking to the camera videos. Me and Cheesebeard 3D printed 2 of these camera ball head attachments. It enables me to attach this ball head to the top of it and then use my trekking poles as a tripod. That way I don't have to carry a full-size dedicated tripod, and I can do long exposures and stable video shots. This is the first time I'm going to be carrying my drone on a longer trip. This is the Mavic Mini 2 with controller, ND filters and 1 extra battery. I'll be carrying a toothbrush, this floss stick and a small amount of toothpaste, a mini med kit / repair kit. I'll be carrying this small pot of Vaseline. It plays a very important role in protecting my feet from blisters. If you haven't checked out my video on preventing blisters out on the trail, I highly recommend you check out that video. Of course, I'll need to bring my passport, so it will live inside this Z-Packs zippered pouch. This is the best poop trail I've ever used. I'll be carrying a small amount of hand sanitizer and some TP, and we'll probably be actually packing out our TP on this trip because Iceland is such a fragile environment. Last but not least is this Sea to Summit head net. There aren't any mosquitoes in Iceland, which is awesome, but there are apparently small biting midges, so I think having the head net along is going to be a wise move.
Whew, so that seems like a lot of gear. As I mentioned, my base weight is around 12 pounds, but goes up to 18 with that camera equipment. If you think I'm completely crazy for carrying that much camera equipment, you can let me know all about it in the comments. A good amount of this gear has been sent to me by companies, but it's gear that I trust and gear that I believe in. I wouldn't be using it for almost 800 miles worth of hiking if I didn't. I sincerely hope you consider subscribing to me here on YouTube and go and giving me a follow over on Instagram to follow along on the hike. I'm super excited for this trip and I would love to have you along for the journey.